So, welcome to another episode of the Immigrant Education Collaborative Podcast. Today we have a special guest, our principal in residence, Mr. Fitzroy Frew. How are you, sir?
Doing well, doing well. Good to see you again, brother.
Good to see you, man. Thank you for doing this. So, this is a special back to school episode. I want to stop in your school, Sterling Middle School
Yes,
in
sir.
Sterling,
Home of
Virginia.
the pioneers.
All right. Thank you for having us, for hosting us.
Yes, sir.
This is the first time that we're doing an episode in a school, so we're grateful for that. So, right off top, can you take us back to your first day as a principal? What was going through your mind when you first walked through this building?
Absolutely. And before I answer that, I wanted to share with you that this is my second time on your podcast, and the first time I will say it's one of the highlight of my career so far.
Okay.
I'm starting my third year as principal. And after you and I spoke, and it's on YouTube, and I shared it LinkedIn, and I know a couple of folks in my circle also shared it out. The amount of positive feedback that I receive, and some of it was folks who had similar experiences, folks whose parents or grandparents had similar experiences, whether they were coming from the Caribbean or Central or South America, Europe. Some of that sort of was same acclimate into American culture. And I think for me, also one of the big takeaway in terms of feedback that I got is wherever we come from, wherever our parents came from, wherever our grandparents came from, there's a central theme of just wanting the best for our kids.
Definitely.
And I think that's something that the podcast highlighted that, I got feedback. So thank you for that.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. But to your question about, first day as principal, first of all, as I said, I'm starting my third year as principal. I got the call officially on July 12th of 2023. And in some days, it feels like it's only been 2 minutes ago. And some days it feels like it's been 20 years
Right.
because things move so fast as a principal. But I think the first day back, the first thing that comes to mind as a principal is hoping that you have credibility. Right? When you stand in front of your staff, when you stand in front of students, when you stand in front of parents and you're communicating expectations, you're communicating a whole host of information, you want to make sure that you're coming from a place of credibility, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have all the answers and to every question, but how you project confidence as a principal, as a leader, how you project credibility. I think that was important to me. I think some of the things that I value, you want to make sure that on my first day and every day after, you're conveying that. So how do you convey that you value relationships? There's an old saying that students don't care what you know till they know you care. So how do you convey that to your staff, to your students in the hallway, from the way you dress to the way you interact with them. So I think that first day, those were the things that were going through my mind. And I think the biggest thing was also like, how do you get buy-in? So buy-in from students, why it's important to get to class and on time, why is it important to go to class and do your very best? Why is it important to be respectful? Some of these lessons that we were trying to teach our kids and remind our kids that wasn't just necessary here at Sterling, but we wanted them to be successful once they leave our doors, whether each afternoon or, in 3 years when they come through as a sixth grader and leave as an eighth grader. So you wanted to make sure that you build those relationships. So kids value the things that you're saying. And the same thing is true for staff. You want to make sure that, you're building those wonderful relationships with staff, providing resources and support for staff so they can be there for our students.
Okay. No, I love that. So your school serves a huge population, student population, family, community population of immigrant families.
Yes, sir.
Right? So what excites you about that work? Like, I know you're very passionate, you're very committed, and you're focused on the work, which I really love and respect about what you do. Like, it's all about the work for you. It's not about anything but the work, right? But what excites you about, serving, specifically immigrant families and helping them sort of navigate the American education system?
Absolutely, and I think it for me it goes to something simple because, and I'm not sure if it's proper grammar, but I am them. So I came from Jamaica. You and I spoke about this at the first time I was on your podcast. I came from Jamaica at 15 years old. lived with my mother in the South Bronx, single mom home, and in the late 80s, again, 89, I graduated high school in 93. For those of you watching and listening, yes, I'm old.
Yeah.
But my mother made sure that education was my ticket out of the South Bronx, as wonderful as a place it can be at times, and
Right.
dangerous, and all of that stuff that comes with an inner city setting. But education was my ticket out. I think on the first podcast I said I don't have the voice to be a singer. I'm not a rapper. I'm not. I grew up playing soccer and I'm okay, but I wasn't gonna play for Arsenal or something like that. So education was gonna be my ticket out of the South Bronx and out of an inner city, and put me on a path to success. So I am them. So because I serve a community that's very similar to how I grew up, I want to make sure that every child who comes into this building, each child, gets that very same opportunity. My mother, when we were growing up in the Bronx, was a nurse's aide, our home health aide. She would go into the homes of mostly older folks and help them with their medicine and help them go to the restroom and bathe them and take them to doctor's appointment, right? And so it was real hard work.
Absolutely.
And my mother also took care of her, family in Jamaica. So if they need something, you send money back to Jamaica or send barrels back with dry goods and stuff like that. So my mother sometimes worked 2-3 jobs. And so there are days my mother would be gone on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening or early Monday morning, and I wouldn't see her again until like a Friday evening or Saturday morning. I was home with an aunt and an uncle and things like that. Well, some of it is very true in our family here. Some of our family are very nuclear family, mom, dad, picket fence and, 2 point whatever kids and dogs and cats. So we serve that. But we also have families who are working multiple jobs, or they're leaving at 4 in the morning and they're not coming back until 6, 7, 8, 10 o'clock at night. So we have a responsibility to those parents that when you send your kids to go us, because we know you're sending the very best you have at
Absolutely.
home. You're not keeping all the straight A students, all the students with no behavioral issue right at home. You're sending the very best that you have, and because of that, and because we believe in that, each child who comes into our building, we have a responsibility to ensure that they get a world-class education. Anything else, and we're not just failing them, but we're failing ourselves. Because on the flip side to that, I joked about being old. These are the kids who are going to be the doctors and the lawyers and the politicians and a wide swath of career that's going to pay taxes and pay my Social Security, hopefully, and my Medicare, hopefully, and everything like that. So you want to make sure, selfishly, that you're educating the next generation and putting them on a path to success, because their success is all our successes.
No, I love that. And I love the fact that you're not only speaking this, but this is who you are. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Like you live this. So let me ask you this: for students who are English language learners, right? English is their second language. What are some intentional things that you're doing to ensure that those students and their families have success as they, start off? Let's say someone just got here and they're starting off, 6th grade is their introduction, middle school is their introduction into America. You alluded to coming to America at 15, which is like you get here at 15, you're introduced to high school, essentially, either 9th or 10th grade.
Absolutely.
So for an English language learner who comes and let's say they're starting, their entry point into the American education system is middle school, what are you doing to help to ensure that family, that student is successful?
So it's multifaceted, and I won't meander too much. But one of the things that we do, it goes back to that relationship piece, where kids who come here, we want to ensure that there are enough folks on our staff. My school right now, we're approximately 78, 79% Hispanic when you look at our demographic breakdown. And so a number of our staff are Spanish speaking. 2 of my assistant principals are Peruvian, and they're native Peruvian, native Spanish speakers. Our main office staff are Spanish speakers. Our bookkeeper, Spanish speakers. Our parent liaison, Spanish speakers. And then we have 2 or 3 dedicated interpreters, translators who, when we want to speak to parents. So it starts with hiring, and it starts with ensuring that every child who walks into the building can seek out an adult and find an adult that they can connect to.
Right.
And more importantly, that they see themselves in. Right. It's important that as a young black male, I was around positive black male and positive role model who look like me, who speak like me. So that's the intentionality that we start with. How are you hiring?
Right.
So that's one. We do a great job at Sterling Middle School, and I'll extend and say Loudoun, because I do have some colleagues from other schools who are also in the work and they're in the trenches. So I want to say across Loudoun County, and I would say across education. But we do a great job of parent and family outreach. Right, we have a PEP program, which is Parents as Educational Partners. We have monthly meetings. That is a time, and we send out, hey, come meet with us. We'll have daycare or, childcare for those of you who want to bring the little ones, so you can have this information. We'll feed you through Title I and Title II grants that schools like mine have access to. We can buy dinner and so on and so forth. And we work with our parent liaison to do a survey with parents prior to that meeting to say, what are some things that we want? And some things will be like, hey, we want, where it's getting cold, we need some winter clothes, we need some jackets. So we'll have, do a jacket drive or something like that. So we do a lot of parent outreach. We invite parents in, we talk to them, and we don't talk at them or talk down to them. We actually communicate with them. What is it that you need for us? How can we help you? Help your child. And sometimes parents are like, you know what, I haven't been able to get into Phoenix, which is the platform that LCPS uses for parent view and student view. All right, so we're going to make sure that happens. I don't know where to go to get my child immunization done. Okay, we got you. Right, we'll provide that information to you. So we constantly are having conversation with parents. One of the things that I do, and most if not all principals do it, I send out a weekly newsletter. But again, I'm very intentional about the information that's sent out. Am I sending information out just to send information out, or because I know this is what's going to help this family, this parents? I'll give you one quick example to kind of crystallize the question you asked, which is, what are some things we're doing either for newcomers or parents of students in an immigrant community. There's a thing called WIDA, right? It's a WIDA, and it's an acronym, but it's a test that must be given to students who are categorized as EL students, English learners. And in the years past, we have the WIDA test. It comes out, we, assess kids, we give them the assessment, and we move on. This past year, we brought parents in, and we say to parents, here's what the WIDA test is. Here's how you can get, I'm going to use that old football word, but here's how you can get your child to matriculate through the WIDA program or the WIDA test. And here's what it means if your child is a 1.2 composite score. Here's what it means if your child is a 4.1. If you hit a 4.4 and above in terms of the composite score, you can exit WIDA, right? And so we had a number of students who were, they're called long-term Ls. So these are long-term EL English learners, because they weren't either taking the test seriously, no one had sat down with them and explained the importance of navigating, WIDA and EL. So one of my assistant principals, what she did, working with the EL department here, sat down and met with every student as an EL. And said, do you know what you're currently, are you level 1, are you level 2, are you level 3? All right, here's what it means. Here's how you get to a level 4. Here's how you get to monitor status. So almost like an IEP where you have your annual. We sat down with all our EL students, and then we also came up with goal setting, right? Once the WIDA test was on the horizon, we had a pep rally, and we called it We the Best. We are the best. We the best. Play up on words and everything like that. That was also one of our assistant principal who came up with that on his own. Dr. Gonzalo Gallardo, the assistant principal who supervises The EL department is Mrs. Juliana Lewis, and then our third assistant principal, Mrs. Elena Barham. She's been here for 19 years, so she she's seen it all, and I joke that she knows where all the bodies are buried, so she has some of the best ideas we could rely upon and things that had worked in the past. So we did the pep rally, call it We the Best, and what we wanted to do was get the stigma out of doing well on the test. The year prior to that, we had 14 or 15 kids exited the program. This past year, we had 44 kids. We tripled it, right? And those are kids who, again, earned a 4.4 composite score or more. There were also another 40 or so kids who scored 4.3. They were one composite score away from exiting, right? So to answer your question, we brought parents in. We educate parents about the WIDA process. We met with kids, talked to them about their WIDA score, their EL level, right? And then we made sure that this test that was going to tell us so much wasn't seen as, oh, that's the test for those kids. It was an all-school pep rally.
Right.
Yeah, teachers up there dancing. We had kids out there dancing. We had questions, and kids were shouting and answering, giving prizes. We made it something to celebrate. So if you're an EL student, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's actually something to celebrate.
Absolutely.
And we're going to celebrate you. And by doing those small things, a couple other things here in terms of scheduling and how we did the test, we saw tremendous success. So for the 23-24 school year, our expected growth rate, we met at 31%, right? Ooh. This past year, 55%, because we are tweaking it. Next year and the year after that, we'll continue to show growth, because my hope is that every year, every student is meeting that state expected growth.
What you're about, right, is sort of recognizing, where we can improve, right, and then figuring out like what's the best strategy for us to improve, right, as opposed to just sticking with the status quo. So I think the WIDA example illustrates that perfectly, right, where you're showing the students, you're showing the parents, and the whole school is behind it, why this test is important, right, and why we shouldn't just brush it off as a nuisance, but how it can propel you going forward. And that all comes from the leadership in the school, right, as showing the kids why this is relevant, why it's important. In that vein, as we spoke before we started recording, we talked about students are now showing up with computers in their pockets, right? They have cell phones, they have smart watches, they have all this, right? So you're showing them how the WIDA is important, how it's going to help them going forward, right? You're showing them the relevance to that. So now as they show up with all these gadgets, right, these ways of learning, how are you incorporating the technology that exists with sort of the not just educational goals, but the career opportunities that are tied to those? Like, how are you tying all that in as a leader of the school?
Absolutely. So now LCPS, Loudoun County Public School, we do have cell phone policies. So for the middle school, it should be off and away in your locker. So during the day, students should, I use that because everyone's like, is that a phone in your pocket? Students should not have their cell phone. Now, we provide a Chromebook to all students. And our teachers do a good job, can always be better, right? In terms of incorporating technology into curriculum and lesson planning, assessment, and all of that. But the best example I'll have in terms of what we're doing, you mentioned kids coming to us. One of the things we did last school year that we're going to do again this year, and it's going to become a fabric of part of the fabric of Sterling Middle School, is we did a career fair last December, and we invited so many various community business partners. We had the fire department, we had law enforcement. Obviously, we live in almost like a tech bubble, a tech corner here in Loudoun, with all the data centers here. So we invited those folks in. We had students sign up for 3 sessions or 3 speakers, and based on their own interests. So if someone was interested in AI, and we had a business partner who could speak about AI, right? Maybe that's your first session, and maybe you were interested in becoming a law officer, or maybe even in the military. We had military personnel here. And my belief, and the belief I think of the admin team and the school in general, is the more we expose students to positive things, especially positive future,
Right.
right, the better they're going to be. One of the things that we said to both the kids as we were prepping them for this career fair that happened, and the speakers who came and the various business partners was, to the business partners, we say, you're going to say something today that's going to spark an interest in a child that long after you leave this building
Right.
will be responsible directly for that child becoming interested in
Taking it
a
further.
career. Absolutely. And you won't know because, we have folks came
Yeah.
from Northrop Grumman. Well, that person may not be with Northrop the next
Yeah,
2-3 years.
absolutely.
But that child...
Plant the seed.
Exactly. That seed was planted. So we say that to the presenters. And what we say to our students, or what we said at past tense to our students, is someone is going to say something today that's going to really spark an interest in you. So listen carefully. Be present. Pay attention. So you're right that our kids are coming to us. They're coming to us in a lot of ways. I started teaching in 1999. That's, over almost 26 years now out of college. And kids are coming to us with different knowledge, right? As you mentioned, they're coming to us with cell phones, with iPads, with smartwatch, and so on and so forth. When you and I were kids, we were joking earlier, to find out what an aardvark is, we would have to find that encyclopedia and hope we still had the first one, on the bookshelf. Now, I have an 11-year-old daughter, and Siri, what's an aardvark? And not only do you have a definition, and you have the image, and you have all the, right? So the world is changing around us, and as educators, what we have to do is, how do we harness the power of the world around us? How do we harness the power of the knowledge that our kids already come into us? And that's something that we're trying to do at Sterling.
So I love what you're saying about, having the career fair, bringing the students, in to meet with these professionals around the interest that the students have. So if they're interested in AI, if they're interested in, whatever other career opportunities that are there. And I think that's vital to start happening at the middle school level. So I'm kudos to you for, helping to spearhead this early exploration with these students so that they can then build, and this could hopefully help to guide them into which high schools they want to go into based on the interest that they have. So talk about how you're sort of building on top of that model, right? The career exploration, and you're sort of aligning it with the interest that the kids have, and how are you tying that into the teachers, but also the parents, like making sure that we continue this momentum so that this career fair experience is not just like a one-off, right? It's not like, okay, we do this every spring, but then how do we, continue to build momentum with that?
Absolutely. And I think one of the places that, to answer that succinctly, one of the places that education is shifting towards is more skill-based instruction, right? Can you demonstrate certain skills? Loudon, a couple of years ago, adopted what's called the 5 C's, right? And I'm not going to go through all of them, but can you communicate? Can you collaborate? Can you think critically, right? Things that, regardless of whatever industry you may end up in, right, you can do those things, right? And then for our teachers, how are we designing lessons? Right? How are we designing assessment around those skills?
Right.
So that, when I started teaching, I taught a 9th grade English class and a 10th grade English class. And the first novel I taught as a 9th grade teacher was Of Mice and Men. The first novel I taught as a 10th grade teacher was To Kill a Mockingbird. Right? And that was a time where you teach the novel in isolation, and you want them to learn about Jem and Scout and Boo Radley and all of that good stuff, and you want them to know about George and Lenny and Curly's wife and all that good stuff. But we're shifting to, can you get information, digest that information, and then extract from that the necessary skill that you would need. So then a child can read any novel or any piece of literature, any piece of information, and be able to summarize it and be able to extract from it necessary. So we're shifting to a skill base. And so succinctly, that's when we're talking with our teachers, when we're building professional development, right? When we're having faculty meeting, we're having department meetings, when we're having CLTs, which is content learning teams, which is all 8th grade teachers speaking together, meeting together, all Algebra 1 teachers, that's where the focus is.
Yeah.
That's where we're really seeing that shift is what are we talking about?
Yes.
We're talking about instruction, but we're talking about skill-based instruction. We're talking about skill-based assessment so that child can take that skill and apply to multiple discipline, multiple phases of his or her life.
Yeah, I love that. And I know, and this is just a simple aside, it's hilarious to me, but I told you after the first interview, I was like, listen, you're the resident principal, man. You're the people's principal. And I love everything that you're saying because you're talking about this intentionality, which goes back to, what you said earlier when we were talking, whereas that kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Absolutely.
Right? So if we're talking around career exploration and career development, and you find a way to connect what the kid is interested in with potential career opportunities, which is what you guys are doing here, right? You're not just doing it with the career fair, but that's essentially what you did with the WIDA test also, right? It's just showing the relevance and connecting and saying, hey, I see you, I value, and I'm into what you're into, and this is how this process is going to help you get what you want, right? You're essentially saying that without saying that, and you're saying it by the actions that you're doing, right?
Yes, sir.
So how, right? Like how can you, like if you were to speak to parents who are getting ready to, send, they're out at Target right now, they're getting ready for the school year, like give us some tips on like how can we have a successful school year? Like what sort of approach should parents help to instill in their kids, but also in their families, right? This is the family philosophy as we're going into this new school year. What would be some tips that you would give to those parents who are gearing up to enter the school year to be successful?
Yeah, and I last time we spoke, I shared this with you. I'm also a father, so I'm not just speaking from an abstract point of view.
Absolutely.
I have a rising 11th grader come August 21st in Loudon. She's going to be taking, I think, 4 or 5 combination of AP and DE classes. It's going to be a heavy load for her. My youngest, who just turned 11, is going to 6th grade, right? She is coming from that shelter elementary where you're basically in one class for the majority of the day. And now each day you may be in 4 or 5 different classes, and some days she may be in 8 different classes, right? The school she's going to have has a very unique schedule. So one of the things that I would say to parents at Target or Walmart, Costco, wherever they're doing their shopping right now, is what I would say to my own daughters at home, right, is find out as a parent, like, what would success look like to you? So say to my daughter, who's an 11th grader, or my daughter who's a 6th grader, what will success look like for you? So that's where I would start with parents. Have conversation with your child about what a successful year would look like. In education, we talk about backward design, begin with the end in mind. So you say to parents, if this is June 10th or June whatever it is that our school year ends, why would you say it's a successful year? Is it all A's?
Yeah.
Is it AB? Is it just safe? Is it you've met friends? Is it you've shown some growth? What does success look like for you at home? Because what it looks like in the Andrews home might look a little different than the Frew's home, right? When my daughter, my oldest, really wanted a cell phone, I'll make this quick, and she convinced her mother, and then mother tried to convince me, and so on and so forth. We wrote a contract. Yeah. We wrote a contract that if you're going to get a cell phone, here's the things you must abide by. Yeah. I would say to parents, do that. Yeah. Hold your child accountable. Yeah. And in some ways, you're holding yourself accountable, because if I'm saying, hey, you need to end with a B, nothing less than a B. So in our house, we say 80 to 100, you're showing mastery, then it's going to be incumbent upon us as parents to go into and check, right? If we're saying you can't have any drama at school, it's on us as parents to be reaching out to schools and say, hey, how's Johnny doing? How's, Sally and so on and doing? So that's where I would start with parents, is be involved, be engaged, set expectation for your child. Know who your teachers are. Know who the adults in your child's life in school are. We are all busy. Yeah. Right? We have 1,000 things to do, but I'd like to think for most parents, share this. Number 1 and 2 on your list is your child. Yeah. right? So when you make that list of, oh, I gotta do this and I gotta do that, and my boss want, number one and two is your child. So start there as a parent, I would say, and kind of know what the expectation of your child is. And if you're not, and if you're not sure, like we talk about those, parents that we brought into WIDA, because you had parents who didn't know what WIDA was. You had parents who did not know like what a 4.4 versus a 1.3 and what does that get me and so on and so forth. So as parents, educate yourself.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing more important than your child's education and your child's well-being. So that's what I would tell those parents shopping out wherever they're shopping right now.
Yeah. No, I love that. So I think what I enjoy, I enjoy having these conversations with you, right, around education and around sort of how things function at your school. What I like, what you said, is about parents having a plan, right? Like starting at the end of the school year, what would success look like to you if this was the end of the school year, right? Is it grades? Did you work on these projects? Did you do some research? Like, what did you do? Having that plan. The other thing I would ask you is, like, how receptive are you and your staff? I'm asking a question that I probably know the answer to, but I'm going to ask you because I want you to say it. How receptive would you be to that same parent who's preparing their child to have a good school year? Like, that parent did the work to say, hey, what does a good school year look like? But then also for that parent to maybe, write down some things that they can share with the staff, right, with the teachers that the child's going to have to say, hey, my child is into anime, or my child is into this. That way, now when the child shows up, the teachers have a way of connecting with that child, right?
Absolutely.
Versus what that traditionally has looked like is just, okay, what did you do over the summer essay that kids had to do? You and I did when we were little, right? What did you do over the summer? But now we can even get a little bit more specific, right? Where the kid shows up and the parent can do this with the child, where the child shows up and says, hey, here's sort of like my interest list, right? These are the things that I'm interested in. So if I'm in, Miss Simpson's math class, Miss Simpson can look at my file and say, okay, well, this kid is into, spaceships or whatever, and she can, connect the word problem to spaceships to kind of tap into that interest that the child have. Like, how receptive would you be?
Yeah, I think my staff, our staff, are very receptive to that. And I used to have a boss of my boss, a middle school director, many years ago, who used to say that which doesn't get monitored doesn't get done. So as a teacher, if I know that the Andrews are home monitoring my grade book, monitoring what I'm doing, having conversations with their kids when they come home, it makes me more apt to do the right things. Not that teachers will do the wrong things, but I'm like, oh, I got to step my game up, right? We also know that the more the parents are involved in their child's education, the better kids do.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing more deflating for a teacher or an admin. Like sometimes if a kid comes to my office, I'm like, but I'm going to have to call your parent. I don't care. Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? So when parents are involved, when parents are saying, hey, my child is interested in anime, if there's a way you can work this into your lesson. My child is big into football. Oh, really? Does he play for a football team? Does he play for a travel team? Yeah. Maybe I can even bring the coach in.
Yeah.
Like that old adage, that old concept, it really takes a village.
100%.
That is true.
Absolutely.
And the more you have that connection to home and school, right, the better kids do, but I also think the better educators do. Because sometimes, as human beings, if we know that, if I don't put in Frew's grade right away, I'm not going to hear from the parents. Sometimes as an adult, as a teacher, it's the weekend, I'm like, I can put that in.
Yeah.
But if I know that like a parent is there waiting for that grade to post, maybe I'm going to, I'm going to record that, Giants Eagles game, and, I'm going to record that Arsenal Man City game, Man United game, put in these grades, and then go watch it on tape delay or whatever. So it's those little things that matters. And then for kids themselves, one of the things we're doing this year, and most schools do this, and we're going to try to ramp it up, is at the end of every week, we're going to ask our teachers to send a positive email, note, remind to at least one parent in your class.
Yes.
So most of our teachers teach six blocks. And so we're asking them to send just 6 reminders. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Frew, just want to let you know Charlotte did well this week. Hey, Mr. Andrews, just want to let you know Zora aced her Algebra 1 test. It takes you 30 seconds, but but think about the buyback. Because now that that parent is at a soccer game like, hey, guess who I heard from?
Yeah.
Guess who just texted me or reminded me or emailed me?
Yeah.
And then another parent is like, I want that. I want that. And like, hey, did you know that Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so emailed your teammates, parent, why am I not getting an email from you? Oh, Mom, I was just one point. I mean, it seeds, we talk about seeding, it seeds so much positivity.
Yeah.
When I got this job, shortly after I got this job, one of my assistant superintendent for teaching and learning came and walked the building with me, gave me advice. I had worked with him and worked for him on 2 different occasions. And the best piece of advice he gave me leading up to this is flood the zone with positivity. So everything we're talking about is having a positive experience. Yes, you call it the immigrant experience, but we're talking about positive experience between school and home and parent, and that's what we want, a positive outcome, a positive experience. And so, when I was talking to Neil, he's like, flood the zone with positivity. Yeah,
I like that. And it's really good to be intentional about that. I remember when I was in graduate school, and I say this all over and over again, I'll repeat. One of my professors would always say, the one thing that a child can't have too much of are positive adults. You know what I mean? So wherever you can encourage adults to be positive towards children, encourage that.
I'll tell you one thing, it doesn't fit neatly here. We just went to a 2-day Lead Loudon, and it's all the leaders of Loudoun County getting together for a 2-day seminar, PD, whatever you want to call it. And our superintendent shared with us an anecdote. And the anecdote was a principal in Loudoun County and how he begins every day with something so simple. We're all looking around. I'm like, I'm going to steal that. I'm going to steal that. And this principal begins every day with saying, good morning. This is your principal, Mr. So-and-so. I love you. I'm glad you're here. Have a great day. And then say it in Spanish. Something as simple as that. Good morning, right? Greeting, sometimes just greeting someone matters, right? I'm your principal. All right, this is your principal, Mr. So-and-so. I love you, right? Sometimes we shy away from telling kids, but how many kids every day get to hear someone say, I love you?
Absolutely.
Something as simple as that. And I'm glad you're here. Right? Kids sometimes go home. Are they sometimes hearing when they walk through the door, honey, I'm glad you're home. Right? So little things like that, right? Flooding the zone with positivity, are things that I really want to do at our school, that we're doing, that I know a lot of my colleagues are doing. The last question you asked, was, talking about parents and everything like that. Imagine if kids going home and say, Mom, every day I walk into my X class, my art class, my PE class, my PE teacher, my art teacher, my resource teacher, my study hall teacher makes me feel so good. Imagine if that's the conversation.
Absolutely.
Think about all the conversation that's going on nationally, locally, statewide, around education, around schools, and sometimes all you hear are the things we're not doing.
Right.
Or the things that are not going well. The truth of the matter is, on a day-by-day basis, there's so many positive things and wonderful things and good things that's happening in schools. We just don't hear about it.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
So in that vein, so tell me about some of the things that you guys are doing here. You mentioned the CLASS acronym. Talk about that and how you've incorporated that into the fabric of this community.
So that again, one of the best part of my job is really working with really smart people who share that idea, share that vision of a positive school. So again, one of our assistant principals, Dr. Gallardo, because we have vision and the school mission, the school vision, and he said, if you were to wake anyone up at midnight, 3 o'clock in the morning, could they tell you verbatim what that mission or vision is? Right? Loudoun has a very simple one, empowering all students to make meaningful contribution to the world. Great. He said, what is our Sterling Middle School mission and vision? If you wake anyone up, even you, Frew, could you tell us and everything like that? And then he shared an anecdote, and it was in the 1960s, President Kennedy visited NASA. Right, we're going to beat the Russians and we're going to put a man on the moon. And everyone that President Kennedy spoke to, what's your mission? What's your mission? What's your mission? The answer was the same, to put a man on the moon. Our mission is singular, to put a man on the moon, right? So the janitor, it wasn't keeping the facility clean. The plumber wasn't keeping the water. The engineers wasn't rocket booster. It was to put a man on the moon. And so what Gonzalo wanted us to really think about is our mission and vision at this school clear enough that not only can everyone regurgitate it or say it or repeat it, but know what they were doing to aid this. So when we talk about class, that's the acronym that we are going to adopt this year. And when we talk about a caring environment, can we all talk about what does caring look like, right? When we talk about the L is for lifelong learners, right? Can we not just invite our kids or encourage them to be lifelong learners, but can we demonstrate what it means to be lifelong learners? So we haven't even rolled it out, so some of my staff will see this and they're like, Frew was out there saying this on podcast before I even heard about it. It's on our T-shirt. It's on our T-shirt and everything like that. But we can say moving forward, Sterling Middle School has class. And it's a play on word. We have class how we carry ourselves. We have class how we interact with each other.
Right.
We have class in terms of, how we go into the world and contribute to the world. We have class because we're going to class and we're learning. Right. And we have class because we have all these 5 different things that we're doing on a day-by-day basis.
So I think what you're doing essentially is you're raising the standard, or what Dr. Benjamin Hardy refers to as you're raising the floor.
Yes, sir.
Right? You're setting these expectations with love.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You're like, this is who we do, what we do and who we are. So let me ask you this. What does a great school year look like for Principal Frew? What does that look like? Like if we're at June 10th, so now we're doing, we asked the parents to do this, and now I'm asking the principal, the head of the snake. It's June 10th, 2026.
Yes, sir.
What made this a great school year?
I think it's twofold. The simple one is, if you were to ask, so this is the end of June or mid-June of 2026, the school year's over. If you were to do an exit exam or exit interview with every student, success would look like every student will say, I learned something this year, something that I'm going to carry over with me for the rest of, maybe if they're 6th graders going into 7th grade, 7th going into 8th grade, 8th going into high school, regardless, right? I have learned something that I'll take with me, and there's at least one adult in this building who I know care about me.
Yes.
Really successful here, that child can say there are multiple adults in this building who cares about me. That, to me, those two, I've learned something I can carry with me, and there are people in this building who cares about me. That's success for me. That's the low-hanging fruit that we can all do. But within education, we also know that there are accreditation, there's accountability, there are standardized tests and everything like that. I think, as I mentioned to you, 23, 24, our expected WIDA score was 31. This past year, 24, 25, we're at 55, right? I mean, that's a tremendous growth. But we still have 45% of our students who took this exam who did not show growth or may have shown growth but not where the state wanted it to be. So next year we should be in the 60s, maybe heading towards that 70, 75 eventually. Year 4 or 5, as I said, I'm starting year 3, we're comfortably in the 80s, right? Because now we can then even be more intentional about that 20% of students who have not gotten there yet. So there are some standardized test scores that we will need to bring up, and if we're showing growth there, I think that's a successful year. And then for us specifically, our chronic absenteeism rate is a little higher than I want it to be. I think it starts there, with bringing that down exponentially. My thought is that some kids don't come to school for different reasons. We are charged with making sure kids are not just coming to school because they have to, but because we are inviting them in. There's something in this building every day for a child that a child may get up and say, I don't want to go to school today, but man, I can't miss my math class because my math teacher is dope. Right? I can't, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to school today, but boy, my PE teacher makes health fun, and I
Yeah.
can't wait for the pacer, and I
Yeah.
can't wait for this. And my
Yeah.
art teacher, we're doing seascape there's something today that a child, even though he or she doesn't want to come to school, but we have enough things in our building going on that child is like, yeah, I gotta go,
Yeah.
because there's something there for me.
Yeah.
I can't miss seeing Mrs. So and so. I can't miss seeing Mr. So and so. So I think those things are important.
So I think the recurring theme that's running through, a lot of your responses are actually the first two parts of class, right? It's caring and learning,
Yeah.
right? And then we said before, when you're building that relationship with kids, they don't care what you know until they know how much you care.
Yes, sir.
Right? So this is a beautiful theme, right? That's kind of incorporated in the philosophy of how you do things. So I remember when we first spoke, and you told me before you took this job, you went to a training, right? And the speaker came in and said something about technology, about how we're preparing the students.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Can you refresh?
Absolutely.
And then we're going to follow up after you refresh the
Yeah,
audience.
yeah.
What was
So
said.
this was we have a yearly conference within Lowry put up by the Office of Teacher and Learning or something along that line, and it's called Launching Your Leadership Journey. And so we went, and the speaker, the keynote speaker, who had written a book called Kids Deserve It, right, talking about kids don't deserve this old stale, right? They deserve us to be at our very best, to be energetic and all that good stuff. But he asked a question, a auditorium. We're at Brampton Middle School, and he asked an auditorium full of educators, some of the smartest people you'll come around, master's degree and doctoral degree and degrees out the wazoo, right? And he asked, what will replace the internet? Looking around like, what do you mean what's going to replace the internet? The internet is the internet. It's here to stay, right?
Yeah.
And he then go into some little background about how the internet was, at some point some government network being able to talk to each other and so on and so forth. There were some jokes about in the 2000 election, at the time, Vice President Gore saying that he
created the internet.
He created the internet, or he was responsible in terms of being a senator from Tennessee, but it got lumped into he's saying he created the internet. But the takeaway from that, and the question he asked is, are we educating kids based on how we have been educated, based on the world we currently inhabit, or are we educating them based on the world they will inherit from us? And I love those two eyes, right? The world we currently inhabit versus the one they're going to inherit from us. What inheritance are we giving them for their future and their world? And that is something that I think about.
Yeah.
Because these kids, long after they leave, Sterling Middle School, they're going to go to high school for 4 years. Hopefully they're going to go to college for 4 years, or some of them may go straight into the workforce, the military, whatever. And some of what we do may not show up for another 10, 15, 20 years from now. I plan to retire in 12 years, so this is going to long outlive my career.
Right.
So what are we doing to give them that world that they're going to inherit?
Yeah.
And that is something that I think about. I know my team and I, when we have conversations
Right.
about it, that's what we're talking about. Don't just come in here and give us some stale, if you're a teacher, stale lesson and same old, because the kids we taught 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's not the kids in front of us now. And the world that we're giving them, it wasn't the world as we knew it. When I graduated in 1999, in 1999, we were worried about Y2K. You know what I mean? And everything crashing, right? So now it's, what are we giving to our students or kids so that they can be successful in whatever world comes their way?
Yeah. So in that vein, with you being aware and being conscious and intentional about preparing the kids for the world they'll inherit, what are you hoping that your children, when they leave middle school, right, their families, what are you hoping that they walk into high school with? Like, what do you, in terms of having a plan, being prepared for a world that may look vastly different than the world we currently, inhabit, right? But the world that they will inherit, what are you hoping that they'll step into that world with?
So I'm hoping one that every child who leaves Sterling, every student who leaves Sterling, each um, exit with high school credit. That's the first thing, that they're ready for high school. And one of the ways that you can demonstrate that is, are you going to high school? The high school we feed into is Parkview High. Are you going to Parkview with maybe 2 math credit, right? Algebra 1 and geometry. Are you going there with maybe 2 language credits? So that's 4. The state of Virginia says you need 22 credit for a standard diploma, 26 for an advanced diploma. If you're leaving Sterling with 4, you're well on your way within that next 4 years at high school,
Right.
to accomplish that. So that's one. But more importantly, the next 4, when they leave Sterling, so if you're an 8th grader and you're leaving Sterling now getting ready for high school, the next 4 years, you're going to have a different governor, you're going to have a different president, but you know what I mean? So we have to prepare you for the world that we can't even see, which is
Right.
what we come back to, that skill base. Have we equipped you with the skills so you can deal with come what may?
Yeah.
Whatever may come, right? You are ready for that changing world. And we're going to equip you with skills, and this is going to sound like double talk, skills to develop new skills, right? Because some of the skills that we're going to leave you here with in a year or 2 may become obsolete.
Yeah. But it,
have
it
we-
allows you to skill stack.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and to sharpen some of these skills, to fine tune them for whatever comes. So that's what we're hoping for. This past year, I'll make this quick. As we're going through a recruitment period of time, we created a video that we shared with prospective teachers or employees here at Sterling, because Sterling is a Title I school. It's a very challenging school, but very rewarding school. Like if you get it right at Sterling, you can get it right anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? That's my belief.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. And so we created a video where we had teachers and admin talking about what it means to be successful at Sterling. And one of the things that we talk about is you're going to end at the end of the day, you're going to be exhausted, but it's good exhaustion. And you're changing the trajectory of kids' lives by what you do, right? We're going to have kids come to us who they may be the first in their family to be schooled as we know it, right? We have kids who come to us, sometimes they have 2-3 years gap in their learning because sometimes they go to school when mom and dad or grandpa, if they're coming from certain places, can afford it, right? And so we have work to do, but to answer your question, my hope is that 10, 20, 30 years later, you have these students, after they leave Sterling Middle, reaching out to teachers, reaching out to different folks saying, thank you. Because of you, because of your collective efficacy, your belief in my ability to do this, and not just your belief in my ability, but your work to better yourself as an educator, to meet my ability, to challenge my ability, right? I am successful.
Yeah.
So, think about, teachers who are going to retire in the next 5, 10, whatever years, teachers at the start of their career who, will spend 30 years in education. My hope is these kids who are leaving now will come back and seek out these teachers and say thank you.
I have 2 more questions. These are
Yes.
my final 2 questions.
Yeah, man.
And I'm going to throw them out.
Yes, sir.
And then you could tackle them however you choose to tackle them.
Absolutely.
So the first question is, I'm going to give you the 2 questions, and then you can attack this however you want to attack it. The
Yep.
first question is, if you had to give us 3 main things that you would encourage every parent, right, to do to prepare their kids to have a great school year, what would those 3 things be? And I mean it in this vein.
Yep.
So as the principal of Sterling Middle School, you parent, if you do these 3 things and your child shows up to school having done these 3 things, I got it from here.
Yep.
Right?
Yes,
So
sir.
that's the first question. And then the second question, I want you to tell us and close us out with like one of your favorite success stories where you had, a kid or a family that had, a major challenge and, the whole school or many folks on your team kind of rallied to like get them through that,
Absolutely.
through that period.
So, yes, sir. So the first 3 things I would say to parents, and again, I'm speaking as a parent, but also as a principal, is to communicate with your, and some of this will seem like a regurgitation, but communicate with your child. Have a clear plan in place. What does success look like? So that's one, right? Two is like know who's who in the zoo. So know your principal, know your assistant principal, know your dean, know the house secretary, right? Know your kids' teachers. If you need to meet with a teacher, but you can't be here, we can schedule a Google Meet. We can schedule a Teams meet.
Nice.
We have open house, which is coming up, which is akin to back to school night. Be involved in that. Come see your teachers. These are folks who are going to spend the next 180 days.
Yes.
180 days
Yes,
over the
yes.
next 10 months with your child.
Yes.
I need to know who my daughter is walking into every other day at 8:30. I need to know who that person is, right? So know who's who in the zoo. So know your teachers, your students' teachers, and folks who interact with your child. So again, have a clear plan at home, right? This is my expectation of you, and and know the folks. And then I think it's true for all of us. Be accountable. You're a parent. Be accountable, and that means if you say to Johnny, "Hey, we talk about this. If I get a call from school, or if you go to school and act like a knucklehead, here are the consequences."
Right.
Be accountable. Be consistent with that. I think those three things. If there's a fourth one, or if I do a little asterisk, I would say as parents, just be knowledgeable. Know what's going on at school board meetings. Know what some of those policies are being discussed about, how it's affecting you, how it's affecting your child, how it's affecting your family. So be knowledgeable. But I would say, have those conversations with your kids. Clear plan of what success look like for the school year. Know who's in your child's life at school, and then be accountable to yourself, to your student, and so on. Success story.
I know you have many. But
I have many.
Just pick one.
I'll make this a quick one. And it's not so much a singular story, but this past year, towards the end of the year, was really difficult for our community. We suffered multiple losses. Unfortunately, we lost two of our students late in the school year. Two different reason or two different incidents and so on. One was tragic, happened suddenly, and one was an illness. And the success story, because sometimes in moments of crisis, in moments of pain, in moments of challenges, that's where you can see, how folks respond to things. And I believe it was Dr. King who has a quote that says, you can tell a man by how he deals with, challenges and struggles in his life. And the way that the community rose up, the respect that kids showed, students showed to families in need and crisis who are going through hurt, staff, the way that they rose to the occasion to love our students and be there. And you would walk into classrooms and, teachers would be conducting almost restorative circles where they knew that kids were hurting. And instead of saying, let's work on order of operation today, let's work on sequence of plot. It's like, no, I know you guys are hurting. Let's talk about the hurt. Let's embrace that. You had teachers they had suffered losses and for some of these teachers it was just, bringing up some of the losses. And, one of the things that I said when I stood in front of the staff when I announced the first that a student had passed away and everything like that, I allowed myself to be vulnerable, to show that sense of, in touch with my emotion and say, it's okay. So if you need to take a quiet moment of prayer or a quiet moment of reflection, or if you need to shed a tear, if you need to hug and everything, it's okay. We're all human beings. And sometimes by being our authentic selves, we allow others to be. Right. And so I think that you mentioned success. I would say that would be something that I would point to where I felt in many ways Sterling Middle School, was really a hub for some of the things that was happening in our community and helping our community heal and mourn at a time that was needed.
I love that. So I know I said those were the last two questions. This is the last one. And what made me think of this one is, so there's a concept that I use, right? It's called 185 days of separation.
Yes, sir.
Because 185 days, those are the days that you're out of school. Because you just said the average school year is 180 days.
Yes, sir.
Right? But 185 days are the weekends, spring break, summer break, winter break, all the holidays. When you add all that up, that's 185 days. So what I want you to do to take us out is to just tell us, because a lot of learning also happens outside of school, outside of the classroom, right? Because you have 185 days where the kid is not in school, right? And that's kind of where a lot of the gains are either made or lost.
Yes, sir.
Right? So I want you to share with us some maybe some overlooked resources that parents may have that are, it's in front of their eyes, but they're not aware of it, right? So it could be public libraries, it could be festivals, it could be anything that a parent may overlook, especially an immigrant parent who, may have just moved to Loudoun County and they may not know about all the resources that are available. So in those 185 days when the kid is actually spending more time at home with the parent versus in school, like what are some resources you think that are overlooked that parents should definitely try to tap into, and may not cost them anything but time and effort?
Yep, you mentioned the library within Loudoun County. We have Loudoun Literacy Council, and their sole purpose is to promote literacy. They've actually partnered with us with those adult EL classes that I had, that you and I spoke about before the interview. But Loudoun County Public School does such a great job of preloading a whole host of resources on what's called LCPS Go that students can access from anywhere. And so there you can go and work on ALEX, which is a math program. And whether it's the math you're currently in, if it's in the summer, that 2 months off, where a lot of learning does get lost there. Maybe part 3 of the podcast will talk about what a perfect school year would look like, which is all your school and everything like that. Maybe 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and all of that good stuff. But anyway, over the summer, a lot of learning get lost. But if, as a parent, we talk about that accountability and setting goals. If we can say, hey, every day for half an hour, you have to do something academic, whether it's on a Saturday or Sunday, whether it's, even if we're going to the theme park and we're driving up to Hershey Park, you can sit in the back and read a book, a chapter of a book for 30 minutes. But for every day, you have to do something academic to keep your mind sharp. So it could be do some ALEX. We have a reading program here in Loudoun called Lexia. We have another one called Aspire, Read 180, and those are for students who might have a learning disability and are a student who may be considered an EL and English learner. So they're different. And then Lexia, in a sense, would be for all students, right? So as a parent, I'm saying to my child, learning doesn't stop once you walk out of Sterling Middle School, once you walk out of Parkview High School. Learning has to continue. And so that's one of the things I would say to parents. Start with LCPS Go, and, earlier I said to you, use the resources we have in the building, from the principal to the teacher to come on in and say, hey, I want Johnny to continue to learn.
Yes.
What are some resources? If you are unaware, this is your tax dollars at work. Utilize your tax dollars. Ask. I'm the guy who, if I'm in Home Depot and I'm like, yo, where can I find a Phillips? I'm not walking around for 2 hours at Home Depot. I ask that. They're there for that reason. Absolutely. So we're here for that reason. We're here to assist parents in navigating the educational system so they can serve their students who we also serve. And that has to go in tandem, or like Chinua Achebe said, things fall apart. Yes, sir.
All right, man. Thank you. So
brother.
Another great episode. This has been another episode of the Immigrant Education Collaborative Podcast with our people's principal, the people's champ, Principal Frew. Thank you so much for doing this and for allowing us to come, on your turf.
Yes.
And I know this episode is packed with a lot of information, a lot of passion, a lot of caring, and a lot of learning.
All right.
See you next time.